We're here at Super Bowl 59, and we're here with the one, the only, former center of the New York Giants, Shaun O'Hara. Shaun, what's up, buddy?
How we doing?
We're good, man. You look good. I'm going to say this to your wife. You look sexy.
Can I get that in print? I'm going to bring that home, and I got to remind her, when you have 3 kids, like, I have to, like, wave to her. I'm like, hey, remember me? Like, I've got knocked down. I'm, like, below the dogs right now on the family totem pole. But, no, I appreciate it. This is great. It's always a fun week. It's like a funnel, right? Like, kind of starts out slow in the week, and then, like, next thing you know, you're like, by the end of it, you don't even know which way is up. But then hopefully that funnel has a beer in it.
There's a lot to get into, especially with the Super Bowl, but I want to get into the New York Giants, and one player that you know and everybody knows that is playing in Super Bowl 59, and that's Saquon Barkley. And Giant fans are crying, well, why didn't we sign him? Why don't we extend him? And that's Joe Schoen's fault because he's GM. And if you watched Hard Knocks, which I'm sure you did, Joe Schoen pretty much told him, go reach out to different teams and we'll match you. We'll match you. And as soon as he found one, which was pretty fast, the Philadelphia Eagles, he says, no, it's too big for our blood. So we wish you all the luck in the world, Saquon. What were your thoughts to that whole take on Hard Knocks that really threw, I believe, Joe Schoen under the bus, and then Saquon Barkley coming out and saying, listen, I'm an Eagle now, and I don't even want to talk about the Giants?
There's a lot of emotions with all of that, and for me, it's, there's many layers too, because I'm friends with Saquon. I've gotten to know him ever since we drafted him, or since the Giants drafted him 2nd overall, and he's a great dude, like great person, great teammate. So I've known him in that capacity. Obviously, being a former Giant, it's tough anytime somebody leaves and goes to another team. But when they go to one of your division rivals, yeah, that has a totally different resonating passion to it, if you will, for the fans. But the Hard Knock stuff, look, I know everybody focuses on that, and they're like, oh, my gosh, how did you let him go? And Joe Schoen tried to sign him for a couple of years. So it wasn't just that year that it was like, hey, we're not going to do this. It wasn't working, and they both could not come to an agreement on what the value was supposed to be. So I think if you want to just look at pure numbers standpoint, I think it was the right thing for the Giants moving forward to say, look, we have not been winning games with Saquon. We can't continue to just keep going down that same road. So they had to say, look, if we can allocate those resources to other positions and draft and make this team younger and build it the right way, that's the way we're going to do it for longevity. So I think that was the macro thought process on it. When you whittle it down and you just focus on those little aspects, yeah, it sucks. It's like, how did this happen? And I think the one thing that nobody gives Joe Schoen credit for is he didn't have to let Saquon be a free agent. Like, people forget, he could have franchise tagged him another year and held him hostage and said, look, you either be Le'Veon Bell and sit the year out or come back and play on a 1-year franchise tag. So I think that there was a lot of things going on in that situation. But I think for Saquon, what he did was, what is best for me?
Right.
And I wanted nothing more than Saquon to be a Giant his entire career. And he was the face of the franchise. Look, there were many times where people were going there just to watch Saquon.
Right.
Like 26 jerseys were everywhere.
I know. I got 3 of them.
Yeah, so it was like that.
That I can't wear anymore.
He was the heart and soul of the team. So when that happens, you definitely, it's puzzling and it kind of stings. But when I look at it from a player standpoint, if you were Saquon Barkley, you would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Because not just, hey, this team wants me and they're showing me that they want me and I've got security with a 3-year contract. It's, I'm going to prolong my career because I'm going to a team that is established and I'm going to be an asset. I don't have to touch the ball every play. I don't have to do all of the heavy lifting. And I'm going to a team with a really good offensive line. So I think for Saquon, this is the Saquon that the Giants were hoping they were going to have for the last 4 or 5 years when they drafted him. It hasn't worked out that way. I'm not bitter at all. When I see him break off a big run, I'm happy for him. I love and I appreciate great football. And when I see what they're able to do and getting him to the 2nd level, and look, he's a generational talent. There are a lot of running backs that can get you a 15-yard run.
Right.
But not all of them can do what he does with he'll juke a safety, run over a corner, jump over somebody. Like, he's got all those tricks. Not everybody has those, Like if you're playing video games, like a lot of running backs have the Tecmo Bowl, it's like 4 plays. He's got all the buttons. You can hit R trigger, RT, LT, the top button. Like, he's got every single move.
He's got like the Fast and Furious NOS button this year too.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, I wanted to hate him. I wanted to. He betrayed me, and then I realized as the season went on, this guy plays the game the right way every time. He played the Giants in the first game. He takes himself out before breaking the single-game rushing record. He could have easily broken it that game.
Yeah.
You see Sirianni ask him, do you want to go back in? And he says, let the young kids eat. We get to the last week of the season, He could beat the single-season rushing record. He only needed 101 yards. Against that Giants defense, maybe at the middle of the second quarter. He says no. And there's videos of him talking to the staff inside the building, being complimentary because he didn't really had to say goodbye to everybody. How can you dislike that guy? I find myself watching Eagles highlights.
Yeah, but you're not rooting for the Eagles.
But I'm rooting for him.
You're rooting against the Eagles.
But I am, but I'm not.
I think the wording there is what you're tripping up on. You're not watching Eagles highlights. You're watching Saquon highlights.
It is.
When you say it like that, it's different.
That.
Well, I'm not watching Eagle highlights.
I ignore it until the ball gets into his hands. And then once that's over, I don't look at it. But
yeah.
You know what? It's been remarkable what he's done.
Yeah.
I coach offensive line at the high school level, and you never want your running back to get hit in the backfield. And it seemed like when he was on the Giants, he's always having to break a tackle before he can even hit the hole.
Yeah.
If there was a hole. And you watch these Eagles games, and the holes are gaping.
Yeah.
Or the blocks are going the way that they should, and he's so good that he can follow it. All you got to give him is like a mid-zone, and he'll take it 68 yards in the snow.
Well, the version we're seeing of Saquon now is what it's supposed to look like. Like, as a running back, you're supposed to hit the hole at full speed. And to your point, for years, it was as he's getting the ball, he's like spinning out of an unblocked defender, a linebacker that shot the A-gap, or a defensive tackle that, split a double team. So he was dealing with dysfunction for so many years, and then this was relief for him. Like, wow, I don't have to worry about the D linemen and the linebackers. I could focus on the force defender and these other guys, just make one guy miss, and I'm to the house. So, yeah, it is great for an O-line aficionado like yourself to watch that. It's poetry in motion. Look, they've been doing it a long time, so it's not something that they have not perfected and been working on. But Jeff Stoutland has done a great job down there for them.
We are here right now at Radio Row with Shaun O'Hara. He's a Giant, ex-Giant, if you don't remember him, Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl champion. He knows a little bit about winning, and the Eagles are heading to Super Bowl 59 versus the back-to-back champion. They have a chance to be a three-time champion in a row, which would be the first time in NFL history a team's ever done that. The Patriots were the last team to have a chance to do that. It fell through. You go into this game and you look at it, and there's many things that you can point out and wonder if this works, if that works, then this could happen. I look at the coaching. Andy Reid, who is a Super Bowl champion, against Nick Sirianni, who a lot of people thought was going to lose his job last year. He lost control of the locker room. Some of the players were yapping. He was just sitting still trying to figure out ways to make this team move forward in the right direction. And now look what he's done. The Eagles have had the best season since when? 2004 defensively. This is the best defense they've had since 2004. He brings in a coach. He wiggles this, he wiggles that, put a little fairy dust on this, adds two secondary players like DeJean and Mitchell, and then all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl again, and they've been in the Super Bowl twice in 5 years. What are your thoughts to Nick Sirianni? Can he outcoach the great Andy Reid?
No, you're not going to outcoach Andy Reid. You're not going to outcoach Steve Spagnuolo. Like, he's the one guy that kind of gets lost in the whole shuffle when we talk about coaches. I don't know why Spags isn't getting more talk for being a head coach again himself. I think when you look at Andy and what he's been able to do, and look, he's changed offensive coordinators too. Eric Bieniemy was there, now it's Nagy, so he's had some shuffling of that as well. I think Nick Sirianni has done a great job. Last year the defense was dysfunctional, right? Matt Patricia, and they changed halfway through the year, and things went sideways quick. Vic Fangio's done a great job. Mm-hmm. He's also got some good studs, like that helps defensively. They've got some guys out there that are just hunters. But I look at like Andy Reid, I feel like he's always one step ahead of everybody. And it's not a knock on Nick Sirianni. It's just Andy Reid is so creative, and he's so good at running the same concepts but packaging it differently with personnel. And I think he does a great job of embracing, hey, what do you like to do? He listens. And Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, they've come up with kind of their own wrinkles and different plays. But when you have great players like that and you give them the freedom and you trust them, they reward you with it. So I think offensive, look, I played against Andy when he was at Philly. He is the best opening drive coach, I think, in the history of the game. And I don't have a stat right now to back that up and put a punctuation point on it. Feel free to go back and look it up. But every year he leads the league in opening drive touchdowns. You could take it to the bank. The first drive of the game, he's going to do something, show something that they haven't put on film in a while, or find a way to kind of get the defense guessing. And he's going to put together a play. And it's like when you can go up 7-0 after your first possession to start every game, your defense plays differently. And he did it to us in Philly. I remember there are times I'd look up at the end of the first quarter, we're down 14-0. I'm like, how the hell did that happen already? They've had the ball twice. We've had the ball once. And that's just kind of been his calling card. So he does a great job of setting all that stuff up. And then, look, when you have a defense coached by Spags. I mean, he's got a Swiss Army knife of different blitzes and coverages, and the things that he's trying to show you pre-snap. He really challenges the quarterbacks to make sure that they're seeing it down to the last second, and then even then he'll still confuse you. So they've done a great job, and they've been phenomenal against the run too. So that's good. To me, that's where the game is going to be won and lost is can that Chiefs defense stop Saquon Barkley and make the Eagles one-dimensional?
They couldn't stop Brown. So, and I didn't understand the Bills. They had a chance.
Yeah.
All they had to do keep feeding the beast the ball. And if they did that, I think the Bills are in the Super Bowl. I really do. I think
was killing them that
game.
game.
He was killing them. They were running. And the one problem the defense and Spagnuolo had all season long, and he's been using different packages and bringing up the safeties and maybe even sometimes bringing up the corners to try to defend the run. They've had problems stopping the run all season long. And now you have, to me, the closest thing to Barry Sanders. I don't care what anybody says. We've had arguments many, many times on our show. Who's the closest thing to Barry Sanders? It's him. This guy is built like Barry Sanders. He does these things that you never see anybody do. You know Barry. You watched him play.
Yeah.
You understand the type of player he is, the obsessive notion of when he stepped on the field. It's like, I don't care who's on the field. I'm on the field. I'm going to find the hole, and I'm just going to beat it right inside and use my speed when I break through. That's Saquon. I think he is going to be the one. If he feeds the ball, gets fed the ball 25, 30 times, I think the Eagles win the game. I really do. But when a team falls behind, you don't run the ball.
Yeah.
And that, you just said it. If Kansas City scores first, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to stop running the ball and throw the ball.
Well, I mean, look, that's how they've won a lot of these games in the postseason. Like, you go back to the AFC Championship game against Baltimore, opening drive, they marched down the field, score. They're up 7-0, then they're up 10-0, and it took Baltimore out of their run game. Like, that's what got them there. Now, all of a sudden, to your point, they got to abandon it. So it's a huge factor to it. Look, the Barry Sanders comparison with Saquon. I remember when the Giants drafted him, and everybody was talking about him, like, man, this guy's unbelievable. His college film was great. Within a week of seeing him in training camp, people were like, wow, like those whispers started about, man, he's got a little Barry Sanders and big, thick thighs. Like when he runs like a sports car, as it gets faster, it gets lower to the ground. That's how he runs, and that's how Barry used to run.
I bet you I have something that you didn't know about Saquon Barkley.
Hit me with it.
His father was a Jet fan. Did you know that?
I did not.
His father was a Jet fan, and Saquon was a Jet fan growing up. And when I met Saquon Barkley, he was coming out of Penn State. He was going into the draft, and I met his father, his father has a Jets tattoo. And I had a conversation with his father, and I talked to him, and I said, if the Jets played the Giants in the Super Bowl, who would you root for? And he made a joke. He said, listen, I want my son to break records, but of course I'm rooting for the Jets. I remember a lot of funny stories about Saquon. I got a chance to meet him when he was younger. I haven't seen him since. You know him. So where do you see him? Where is his head at going into Super Bowl 59?
Well, listen, it's going to be his birthday. So I think, for him, if you could play in a Super Bowl on your birthday, like, you can't have a bad day. That's teed up for you. I think just watching him this year, I've seen the pleasure of playing the game come back to him. And look, when he scores a touchdown, he's not like making it about him. He runs over and he's celebrating with his teammates. You were talking about it before. I was like, no, it's not about the record. It's not about me. It's about winning. And to me, that's been the most refreshing part, is to see his love of the game come out on game day. And it's the love of winning. Like, that's what this game is about. Like, yes, we get caught up in financials and salary caps and monies and contracts and the business side of it. But it's nice to see that this game is about winning, and it's about the team. And that's, to me, one of the most refreshing things that Saquon has brought to the Eagles. Because now everybody, they're like, Tom Coughlin used to have a quote that he had in our team meeting room. It's amazing what a team can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit.
That's true.
And
I didn't know that.
That is what is happening with the Eagles right now. There's no like, hey, he's getting the ball, he's scoring touchdowns. Think about how many touchdowns Jalen Hurts has taken from Saquon this year.
Not
one time has he been bitter about it.
My gambling bank account knows all about the loss of touchdowns.
I don't know what that G word stands for, but I know this. I play fantasy football. I'm in a father-son league with my son, and he loves Saquon. So, of course, we drafted him. And he's like, why do they keep giving Jalen Hurts the ball? Like, Saquon will have 200 yards rushing and no touchdowns. But, like, he got you to the 1 yard line, and he knows it. Like if he gets stopped at the one, he gets up, he's like, dang. Like, I know I'm not going to get the ball. Like, that was my chance.
Well, let me ask you one thing about Spags, because as a Giants fan, obviously love Spags, love obviously winning. The greatest Super Bowl, in my opinion, that has ever been played against the, at the time, undefeated Patriots.
Speaking from a Giant fan.
Let me speak. I've been suffering this whole week. You know this. I wanted to ask you, I wrote an article for our website, the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, about that blitz he did against Josh Allen when Kincaid almost caught it 4th down. I talked to Prince Mukamara about it yesterday, about the tight alignment, so it didn't show the blitz. The thing that I haven't asked or heard anyone say is, as a center, the center usually finds where the nose is and sets the line's protection. Did Spags intentionally get them by putting the line in a certain way to set it the wrong way on that play? Because if he did, that's a whole nother level of genius, because I thought if he didn't, it's just kind of a coin flip.
Yeah, well,
if he would have got lucky on that.
Spags does a great job of, when he's implementing his scheme with the players, it's making sure they understand the whys, like why are we doing this and what the point of it is. So in that situation, they were going to have a weak side blitz. So whatever the formation was going to be, it was going to come from the weak side. Right. Like Spags is notorious for, he likes overload blitzes, but he normally does it from the weak side. And the weak side is usually the open side. And usually if you have a shaded nose, that was always like a tell, like, hey, there's going to be a blitz coming. If he's on the center shaded, it's because he's trying to get across to the other A gap. If he was on the guard, you're never going to get to the other A gap if you're on the guard. So they would cheat the nose over to the center and have him tilted or shaded so that he could get over there for the overload blitz. So there's all these tells that you can look and see. But he does a great job in teaching them to hide it and disguise it and not show it. Now, why do you blitz a slot receiver from the short side of the field? Because he's closer to the quarterback. Right. If you blitz from the wide side of the field, it takes him longer to get there. He's not going to get there in time. But by no means was I shocked that Spags brought pressure. With the game on the line and with 3rd and 5+, Spags is bringing heat because he knows that if I bring pressure, the ball has to come out. You have to make a decision. And when you're hurried, that's when you make bad decisions. He's not going to sit back on 4th down and say, I'm going to let you move to the right, move to the left, buy time, maybe run, maybe make something happen. It still should have happened. Right. You know, Dalton should have caught the ball.
Unbelievably got it.
And everybody loves Kincaid. Like, nobody can believe that he didn't make that catch, including himself. And then who knows, if he makes that catch, this might be a different conversation.
Right.
You were saying that, you know, you're miserable.
Let's just
suffering.
Say I wrote another article called "The Lament of a Diehard Giants Fan." I think that'd probably be the best way to describe.
Well, you guys have seen Field of Dreams, I'm sure.
Oh, love that movie.
Ease his pain. So I'm going to ease your pain right now. All right?
Wow.
Put that on. All right.
Absolutely put that on.
I'm not putting that on. I'm not a Giant fan.
Ease your pain.
Ease his pain.
And
I like you. I don't. I'm not a Giant fan.
And let's talk to Joe Shane for a second. If you build it, they will come.
Go the distance.
Go the distance.
Well, he better build it, or he'll be gone.
Yeah, he knows that.
Yeah.
He knows
this
that.
is the last chance for him.
I mean, this is. But look, when you hire a general manager, and it wasn't just, hey, we're going to bring in a new GM. Joe Shane brought with him new age technology. Right. And the way that the Giants scouted and did stuff, it was so far behind the way other teams were doing it. Right. So Joe brought that in there, and he brought in stuff that they were like, we didn't even know this existed, and they changed the draft room, and they changed the whole process of how they scouted and draft people and evaluate them. So that part of it, too, look, it takes time to even build that aspect of it. Like, we're going to basically grade these guys differently than maybe you've done in the past. So there is a process in that as well. And I think that the Giants ownerships understood that. They understood that when they hired him, and they understand that right now.
He brought technology. So is this technology asking his kids who he should draft?
This kid did say take Jaden Daniels, though. To be fair.
That reaction right there is what it is. It's a good story. It's like when the story came out about Woody Johnson. His kids said, don't trade for that guy. His Madden rating's low. It's like, do you really think that Woody was taking his kids?
No.
Hey, man, we can't because of the Madden rating.
I didn't believe that. No.
And, you know, look, my son, too, it's like he says all kinds of stuff like, hey, we should draft this guy. And I'm like, no. Listen, time out. You know? I mean, the James Daniels thing, like, they didn't even have a chance. Listen, I guarantee you Joe Shane called Adam Peters and said, hey, what would it take to move up if we wanted to? And it's like the moon. Like, and it's like
your firstborn child.
Hey, look, Adam, you know I got to ask you this. Like, what would it take? Just give me something so I can at least go back to my owner and say, here's what it's going to take. I know it's going to be too much. I know we can't afford it. It's like when your wife sends you a listing on Zillow. Look at this house. Isn't this beautiful? You're like, yeah, it's great. Like, what are you talking about? Like, like, hello, I'm Earth. Have we met?
Frank Sinatra used to live here.
So you have the conversation, you know that's not going to happen, and so we've got to pivot and we got to find another way.
Well, we really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy guy. You're jumping from table to table, and we wanted to give you a different outlook to a radio show. So I hope you enjoyed it.
This was great. Listen, I know you guys mentioned Jaba's going through some stuff, so
yes.
I just want to wish him all the best. Send some hot thoughts and prayers to him. I had a chance to meet him. I think I was still playing for the Giants when he burst onto the scene.
Yes.
Great dude, and I'm happy to fill in and sit here.
Yes, absolutely.
And not be Jabba the Hutt.
Don't say that. I try to introduce him
not
to Star Wars.
Not talking to him, yeah.
I try to introduce
he
him to Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
he hates it. And he hates it. I said, dude, just watch it. It's an all-time great story. He watched the first one, and he was like, yeah, I'm not watching this anymore. He says, I watched it for an hour. That was it for me. I was like, dude, you didn't even get to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. He says, I don't know what I'm going to return, but I'm definitely not returning to the Jedi. So that's what he told me. So that was it, and Jabba was done. But we really appreciate the time. You're fantastic. I'd love to get you on the show again.
All right, deal.